Today we're going to be looking at an insane game by the only 13-year-old Magnus Carlsen. Now, as you can see here, Magnus is rated 2484 when he was only 13 years old. Now, when I was 13, I was like 1800. So, we're going to see this amazing game by a prodigy. So, Magnus starts out with e4, and he's playing against this very strong Grandmaster Sipka Ernst. But this is one of his most well-known games, and you'll see why. So it starts off as a Caro-Kann. We have d4, d5, knight c3, pawn takes pawn. There's also the advanced variation here. Magnus chooses to go for this more classical approach, and black plays the most common moves. Now, I really like going knight f6 and playing this setup. It's very fun. You can just move all your pieces out and then castle queenside usually, and then bring your rook to g8, and it's fun. But apparently, Mr. Ernst doesn't like fun, so he goes bishop to f5. You have knight to g3, bishop to g6, and now h4. This is still theory, and it's pretty well-known theory. White is just straight up trying to trap this bishop. So black, not wanting to lose his bishop, makes sure that it has an escape square. White goes knight f3. Usually this is just a good developing move, but in this case, the knight jumping into e5 is going to be pretty nice. After knight d7, white continues with h5, gaining more space, and proceeds to trade off the bishops. We have takes, and now pawn to e6. And here, this looks like a kind of boring game. You might be wondering, where's the brilliancy gonna come? Black has a really solid structure. Black has a good bishop, Pawns are on light squares. The bishop's on a dark square, complements it. White has a bit more space, but that's it. Looks pretty boring. It's Caro-Kann. What do you think, right? We have bishop f4, though. Black develops, and Magnus castles queenside. This is the first part where it gets interesting. White castles queenside. And we will indeed have opposite sides castling in this game, which, if you don't know, usually when players castle on opposite sides, the game is very attacking, fun, and each player is just trying to pawn storm each other to win. So it's going to be like a race. It's a base race, essentially. With bishop e7. Now, black probably doesn't want to castle queenside because this bishop is pretty strong and kind of annoying for him. Also, he's pushed the pawn to c6, which kind of weakens his position. So he pretty much has no choice but to castle kingside and go with the flow. So here, Magnus goes knight e4. It's a good move, making way for the g-pawn. So in the case that black castles queenside, kingside, which he's most likely to do, Magnus is ready to just storm the pawn down right away. And honestly, here it looks like white has a little bit of an edge, He's a bit ahead in the race. He's got the pawn on h5, but honestly, this isn't much. But psychologically, it looks like white has something. White goes knight e4. Also, king b1 is a pretty decent move here. Usually you want to go castle queenside and then play king b1 most of the time. But knight e4 is played, queen a5. Knight takes e4 is a more principled approach because black has less space. So, usually you exchange pieces when you have less space. Black goes queen a5, attacking this pawn, which is also perfectly fine. We have king b1 now, and short castle. Note that black does not grab this pawn, actually, since after knight to d6, this is indeed a fork, so black has to kind of respond. So after bishop takes, and castles queenside, because black cannot castle kingside anymore, right? Can't castle through check. But after castles queenside, knight e5, takes, it becomes really apparent here that even though white's down a pawn, black's king is really, really in some trouble. And after all of this, white has already won back his material. So, this isn't good. The knight's kind of stranded on h5 here, and the bishop is really powerful. So black goes for castles, and we have knight takes knight. Knight takes knight. I mean, there wasn't much better. And now knight to e5. Point of this, pretty simple. White wants to support g4, and he's going to do this with a knight as well. And additionally, this knight is pretty nice here and applies some pressure. This knight is actually going to be the hero of this game. So after rook to d8, white plays queen to e2. This is a really nice move, just getting off of the d file. Black was preparing to go something like c5, and it also helps with the g4 pawn break. Now, g4 was played between Polgar and Anand. I'm not sure if Carlsen knew this or not, but he played queen to e2. c5 is played, and this move, it seems like Mr. Ernst didn't realize the brilliancy that was about to occur. It's only plus 0.4, but after Carlsen's next move, things get wild. He goes knight to g6, sacrificing the knight. And so, let's see black's choices, right? This is a fork. It must be dealt with. Either you take the knight, or you move your rook. And, well, in the game, he chose to take the knight. Rook e8 is another choice, and after takes, white wins a pawn. Now, the reason why white wins a pawn here is because black cannot simply take back. If he takes back with the queen, he hangs the rook. And if black decides to take the rook first and then take, bishop to d6 is a very nice fork. So, instead, black chose to take the knight. Now, after queen takes e6, black has only a couple moves here. Now, black wants to go rook f7 and protect his bishop while protecting his king. But after rook f7, h takes g6, you're losing this rook, and not for anything either. So this is just really bad. Ernst goes king to h8. It's important that Magnus does not cash in his chips early and play queen takes e7. This would be pretty bad because after knight to d5, black is perfectly fine. After some complex tactics with bishop to d2, black is pretty much equalized here, and after b6, white retains a slight pull, but it's nothing much after the very nice rook takes f2. So instead, black plays king to h8, and Magnus does not take, rather, he takes this pawn. Now, what is he threatening? Well, Magnus threatens various sacrifices here, most likely taking with the bishop, because it's less. And now the bishop is really threatened, because say if black does nothing, right, white is going to go bishop h6, and after all of this, you're just getting checkmated here. There is no good way to defend your bishop, and rook h7, knight h7, rook takes h7, checkmate. Additionally here, I think queen takes e7 is much better than it was, because you cannot go knight d5, there's rook takes h6, g takes, and queen h7 mate. So, black has to do something about this bishop, and he goes knight to g8, defending e7 and h6. But after the brilliant bishop takes h6, oh my gosh. It can be captured in two ways. Alright, and Ernst takes with the pawn. Now, if he took with the knight, there would have been rook takes h6, takes queen e7, and surprisingly enough, there is no way to stop queen h7 mate. Yeah, you can go rook f7, but white will take, queen c7, white will take, rook d7, white will take. You are not stopping checkmate, which is pretty sad. So, he takes with the pawn. Now, after rook takes h6, he sacrifices the rook. I think this deserves brilliant marks as well. But forced is knight h6, because if king g7, there is rook to h7 checkmate. After knight h6, queen e7, white is still threatening mate, but it's not quite. This doesn't have the same potency as it had earlier, because black can block with the knight. Black does not block with the rook, because after takes, this is just even worse. but white is going to queen. So black blocks with the knight, and now I'm going to reveal something pretty crazy to you. This had all been played before. Yes, it's move 23, and all these moves have been made before by, yes, a grandmaster. Well, Almagro Janas and Jan Gustafsson. You might know Jan Gustafsson from Chess 24. You might not. He's a pretty cool grandmaster. He's playing as black. And the guy would go, his opponent went queen f6 check after king h8. He played rook h1 with the threat of pawn takes, followed by queen h8 or rook h8 checkmate. But after knight h6, the threats were kind of blunted, and white just settled for a repetition here. The game ended in a draw. But in this game, Magnus played pawn takes rook. And the reason why this is so strong is because white here just threatens queen f6, followed by rook h1 mate, and it's not really easy to stop this. Now, for example, if queen b6, white goes check, 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 and this is just going to be mate very soon. Check, and rook h3 apparently is very good for white. Yeah, there's this nasty fork. So black's king is just simply too exposed here. And so black goes king to g7. He has to prevent queen f6 in some sort of way. Or else queen f6, rook h1, and it's just going to be GG. So king g7 is played, and now a really, really nice move. You might be like, well, black's going to take the pawn next, and white has no compensation. Now, Carlsen plays a very, very nice move, and just using his full board vision. He goes rook to d3. Now, if I went rook d3, there's a difference between me and Magnus Carlsen. Like, I would have just hung up checkmate, and forgot that my queen was here. But he knows his queen is here, and this is the only reason why rook to d3 works. And the idea is simple. He just wants to go here, and after the king moves anywhere along this file, queen h4 is just checkmate. Rook d6. Black is going to block the check. But after rook to g3, rook g6. It's important that you don't fall for rook g6 and rook takes rook. You'd be like, oh my gosh, I win material. I'm a genius. No. But unfortunately for Mr. Ernst, Magnus was a bit smarter than that. Play queen to e5 check. There are a couple of lines here. If king h6, rook h3 is just checkmate. And if king h7, there is queen h5. And a very, very nice checkmate here. So, again, black is forced into taking this pawn, which he really doesn't want to do, because after queen f5, this is a double attack. Now, he goes rook f6. If king e7, and you take this again, you again get mated, so I guess that this is the only reason why black was playing on. But after king e7, white goes rook to e3 check. After king d6, white can take this rook with check, or this rook with check. Importantly, it's with check, but not super importantly right now because the rook on e3 guards queen e1 mate, and white is just up too many pawns. So after rook f6, black just gets checkmated in amazing fashion. This is actually called the epaulette mate, if I'm not mistaken, and it's really nice that Magnus got this over the board. So just a brilliant game by Magnus. Noticing this really nice knight move, and then sacrificing not once, but twice on h6. And after queen e7, following a game that had already been played before, but finding the next move that resulted in a forced win. And just an amazing game by the only 13-year-old Magnus Carlsen. So, hope you guys enjoyed this game, and subscribe for more, and I'll see you next time. Bye.